Hi, you're listening to the Colourworks podcast, a monthly podcast for business owners and managers looking to improve the way that their people work together. We are specialists in people development, with particular applications in team working, leadership, customer service, and organisational culture. We've been going since 2003 and have so far had the pleasure of working with over 100,000 people across the private, public and not-for-profit sectors. Our mission is to create vibrant workplaces in which all people feel valued and get heard, where communication is honest and clear, decision-making timely and robust, and authentic leadership filters throughout the organisation.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to this month's episode of the Colourworks podcast. I'm James, and I'll be hosting today's show, which is being recorded over a virtual platform. Given the current situation we find ourselves in, we wanted to bring you an episode that's all about the current challenges people are facing whilst being forced to work from home or starting to transition back into the workplace. To do this, I'm joined by Michelle Spirit from Spirit Resilience. Along with specialising in mental health and resilience, Michelle joined the Colourworks team back in January and hasn't wasted any time getting fully involved in helping us continue to develop our team and leadership wellbeing offerings. Welcome to the show, Michelle. It's great to have you along.
Thanks, James.
So, Michelle, tell us a little bit about your own journey from being a mental health nurse to working with some of the most senior leadership teams in the FTSE 250.
Well, as you say, I began my career working as a mental health nurse, specialised in acute work, so really dealing with people in crisis. And strangely enough, the irony was that I burnt out myself. So I left that career and looked at what I could do. And I remember sitting in my local library, and there used to be a fantastic book called Careers, and then they'd have the year that they published this book, and it was the size, I don't know if you remember those old Yellow Pages books, but it was that big, and it had every single career you could possibly think about. I remember sitting for a whole afternoon in my local library, going through every single career and landing on personnel management. Because I thought it really blended my interest in people development, but it wasn't quite as intense as I'd found working in mental health nursing. So I went to university, got the qualifications, but still a bit restless at the end of that, so did quite a bit of travelling. Came back and had a stroke of luck. I had the local paper, and in there they used to advertise jobs in our local papers. You may remember that. And there was a job for a careers advisor, trainee careers advisor, and I thought, wow, fantastic, that looks great. So applied, got the job, ended up working in careers guidance, and then training other careers advisors, became the people development a person there. And so interestingly enough, luck is a massive part in people's careers. So at the time I was thinking, well, that's terribly unplanned. But between 70 and 100% of people say that luck plays some part in how their career pans out. And in fact, if you think about that word career, it actually means, it's a verb, and it means to move in an uncontrollable way. So this was me moving in my uncontrollable way to a career as a careers guidance practitioner and training manager in the career service. Then another job came up in a training enterprise council. This is during the time of, I don't remember, Charles Handy's Empty Raincoats, I think it was called, book. Right. And there was this sense actually from the government that we were all going to be having portfolio careers. And so they invested a huge amount of funding in helping individuals choose their career path, which is quite interesting after what I've just said about luck. But there was this sort of fear, I think, that people wouldn't know where to go, what to do to have this portfolio career. As it happens, I don't think that's actually panned out, but my job was to help manage that for a county, that whole process of adults having access to high quality guidance to help them navigate their way in this new world that we were expecting, which would be portfolio careers. And then I met a lady called Alison Sumpter, and we used to hatch plans to see whether we could do what we most liked doing, which was the people development piece of our roles at the tech. Whether we could do that in a more independent way as freelance practitioners. And we found a way, and the rest is history. We kind of, both of us have been doing that for the last 20 or so years.
All right, great. So this is the whole theory of resilience and spirit resilience. How did you first come across the whole theory of resilience, and what gave you the appetite to take that into that corporate sector and fly solo?
Well, I used to do a lot of work in research and development, actually, James. And because I've had that mental health background and also HR, I did my sort of master's in human resource development. So I've always had a real fascination in research and also what makes people be their best, if you like. And so I sort of combined all that into what Egan talks about, is a translator role. So what I noticed is that there's a plethora of research. I mean, almost too much. And you probably notice that right now. There's so much information out there. But what we don't really have, there are enough people that translate that knowledge into something that has meaning and pertinence for everybody that they can pick up and use immediately.
You're absolutely right. Everyone's an author in these current times, but there's
absolutely. So who are the good authors? Who are the not so good authors? Who do we trust? Who don't? So the master's process was really interesting because it helped me understand the rigor of research and how we can trust certain things and not others. And so that's what really led me to the door of resilience, really. Careers as well is a lot about employability skills. There's endless research around what do employers want from new recruits, existing personnel, and actually it's employability skills. And the most important employability skill is this sort of elusive emotional intelligence. Do people understand themselves? Do they understand other people? All these sort of strands sort of came together really in that word resilience. And so that's how I ended up focusing just on that, really. How do we help people be just a little bit more resilient to help them be the best they can be?
Fantastic. And then resilience and well-being and mental health can be quite challenging words for organisations to articulate their needs under when they identify they might have a need for such things. How do your current clients find you and then articulate their needs for strategies that you can offer?
So I am no marketeer. All my clients come to me via word of mouth, which is lovely because I've already had some kind of a recommendation. And what I try to do is get to understand where they're at and where they're aiming to go. So from that perspective, it's not that different from coaching. You can't really deliver the same service in two different organisations because everything is different. The culture, the people, the values, everything is different. So where are they? Who are their staff? What are their roles? What are their challenges? And what is it feasible that they can achieve over a given time period? And how might they best achieve that? What kind of outcomes are they looking for? So that's the journey, really. It's just really paying attention to who they are, where they're trying to get to.
And resilience, well-being, and mental health is the top of organisations' agenda at the moment, given our current situations with forced remote working and the transitioning back into work. How's the current situation affected how you deliver your services to organisations?
Well, here we are talking through use of Zoom, and that's what I've been doing. Is I've been delivering services through various platforms, Zoom, MS Teams, depends on what the organisation prefers, and that has very much changed how I deliver my service, which tends to be consulting individuals about what they want in the organisation, as I just mentioned. But then the delivery is done via Zoom or MS Team platforms. So it's trying to be creative and imaginative about how can you engage people in that platform, because we know it's much more difficult to pick up some of those visual clues. It can feel quite exhausting, actually, being on Zoom for too long. So how do we use this platform in the best way possible so we're not actually exhausting people, but we're giving them an opportunity to learn a little bit about themselves and their workforce and the kind of activities and kind of processes that they can adopt that will help them understand their staff a little better, because I firmly believe that you cannot adopt a one-size-fits-all solution for every single individual, particularly at the moment. So it's about how through Zoom or how through these virtual platforms do we help decision makers, leaders, managers, or individuals themselves manage this situation so that they can get through it in the best possible way for them as an individual.
That's really interesting. Very interesting. So, is there a kind of a thread or a summary of subjects that you're covering currently to support managers and leaders in businesses right now?
Well, what I tend to focus on, James, is things like leadership behaviours. So, if individuals are looking to their leaders for guidance at this point, how do they stay calm and focused in the eye of the storm so that the people around them, you may have heard this expression of emotion contagion. So we're highly susceptible to the moods of others, particularly leaders. And so how do we as leaders, as managers, retain that sense of control and calm in ourselves so that we radiate that to our workers, really? So some of this work has been around, your own resilience, regulating your emotions. Some of it has been around how do you help your workforce do that. So,
and just to jump in there, to intercept and have, do you have any practical advice on leadership, calm demeanours during this current time? Do you have a go-to model that you lean upon?
I think just be authentic. I think just be yourself. I don't think you can start pretending, that one of the most important things in leaders is authenticity, really getting to know their workforce, who they are, knowing that whole person. You may remember the Google Project Oxygen work, where they asked individuals to rank the qualities that they most appreciated in their leaders, in their managers, and kind of top of that list came, this authentic leadership and the fact that they know me, they understand me, they want to develop me. It's about me, not about them as such. So I think authenticity is really important. I think just being transparent, being values driven, focused. Crisis doesn't build character, it reveals it. So I think, this whole sort of working from home for leaders, a lot of them have focused very much on that. But actually now it's about how do you help people feel safe? How do you help them feel engaged, informed and useful? If leaders can help people feel physically, psychologically safe, then everything falls from there. If that basic need isn't met, then everything becomes a little bit more difficult.
I agree with all that you say. I also feel that the challenge at the moment is that individuals can lose themselves under the pressure and the stress that's taking place and project not a false version of themselves, but the version of themselves that they may not want others to see the most.
So true.
And that level of remaining authentic during stressful times is a very big ask.
It is because when things are very stressful, our focus narrows, and we become quite different. Our brains behave very differently when we're stressed, and so it's all too easy to start pretending that you feel totally in control. Everything's fine. We're going to get through this. This is such a great opportunity, Whereas actually, even particularly leaders could be feeling very vulnerable at this time, and I think there's nothing wrong with tuning into that. You might be familiar with Joseph Campbell's circle of awareness. Yeah. This is a circle, and it's got a vertical line running through horizontal line running through the middle of it, and at the top we've got consciousness, and at the bottom we've got things that we're not conscious of. If we can raise our awareness of the things that we fear, the things that make us feel less secure, if we can just identify them and name them, we know from MRI scans, brain imagery, that actually that reduces the stress response, just knowing that. So this authenticity is grounded in good science. If we acknowledge it, we can deal with it. If we deny it, it's going to pop out somehow else in an unhelpful way.
Just that first step to get to that place when when the pressure and stress is on, as leaders are projecting that version of themselves, it's probably the least furthest from where they can get to showing vulnerability and accepting some of these challenges.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so for business bosses, leaders, what do you think that organizations can do to support their leaders in stepping into this area of consciousness around how they're projecting their behaviors?
Well, that's what drew me really to the Colour Energies model. I've been working in mental health resilience for decades, actually, dare I say it. But I think
don't look a day older. Don't look a day older.
Whispering that, yeah. But it's this nuanced approach. I can't stress enough that here's an example. So. For some individuals, having a daily debrief can actually increase feelings of anxiety. For some, it will do the very opposite. So to have a sort of this sort of blueprint is just not possible. But I think you can definitely introduce, a very simple model, which people have found. Yesterday I was working with some managers and they said, oh, it's great, we're going to use that immediately. And it's just having a simple daily activity sheet, because, when we've got this narrowed focus, and if that continues for day after day after day, we can get that sort of brain fog. So, having something around, what is your priority today? What are your working hours? When are you going to take your breaks? Once you've achieved your priority, what are your next 3? How are you going to look after your mental health? How are you going to look after your physical health today? Having something like that. So whether you're leading with that red fiery energy or the yellow or the green or the blue, that we know will, if we introduce it carefully, will help each of those different energy types really gain that sense of control and therefore sense of security that they need. But I think we need to not think that there is a quick fix answer out there, because everyone is different, so different things are going to help individuals. Interestingly, actually, Stanford University have been working with Ariane Huffington. You might have heard of Thrive Global. So Stanford University do a huge amount of work in this area. And what I found really interesting about their work is they've identified different ways in which the brain responds to stress. And if we can be aware of how the brain responds to stress, us as individuals or our workers, then we can actually tailor our response to that. We can tailor what's going to be most helpful for them. So you get some people who lean towards rumination. So rumination is where you've got those inner thoughts, you're running over things over and over again. And so that kind of person, needs to have some help and support in managing their exposure to media, not being encouraged to ruminate on negative things, which can be very alarming, and maybe just suggesting that they have, a certain time of the day where they won't worry. So do it at 6 o'clock tonight. If you need to worry, contain it in that way so that you start to control it. Others are very hyper attuned to threat. They're very easily startled. So for them, those debriefings, need to be managed carefully. So routine is very important for them. Others might be responding with emotional numbness. So this physical isolation and limited communication that we're experiencing means that they have to focus on lifestyle change, maybe grounding, focusing on good music, walking, pleasant activities that help take them out of that kind of numb sensation that they're experiencing.
And what I'm hearing here is an essence of going back to basics here. Actually mapping and planning our day and being very strategic in our routines and the way that we manage ourselves on a daily basis. In fact, I was on a coaching call the other day, and it did come back down to getting out of bed, making your bed.
Yeah.
Following the routine of getting washed, having breakfast, going for a walk and signifying this is the work time of my day, and coming back and saying this is my home time of the day. So having real structure around the areas that you work in and how you function throughout that day. So I think what I'm hearing from there is don't be afraid of going back to basics and really mapping out in a very structured way your workings.
Absolutely, if that works for you. So some people, that's great. That's just what I need. Other people are thinking, I need some stretch. My days are really boring. I want to be doing something challenging. And so if we're too sensitive to individuals, and we just give them very mechanical tasks to do because we're very sensitive to overloading them, actually that could reduce that sense of meaning and confidence that they have. So for that, in fact, the Harvard Business Review's last publication was on this very subject. It's really interesting, and it showed that where individuals who are working from home were allowed to experiment or solve meaningful problems, it really massively increased their levels of motivation. So again, it's about that balance. Some people need the basic stuff, go back to basics. Others are kind of okay. Their emotional needs are being met, and they need to feel they're adding value. They need to feel they have that stretch.
Yeah, and interestingly, since February, Google reported there'd been a 300% increase in people searching for how to get your brain to focus.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Isn't it? And it leads us on to a really interesting question, because we're a couple of months into lockdown now and looking at transitioning back into what will be a new workplace. Do you have any recommendations on how people could generally focus their brains more effectively or maintain motivation?
Well, I think for me, it's quite helpful to frame this in two ways. So are we around staying calm, or are we around having hope? So where I've been working with GPs, actually, rather than this focus on we need a diagnosis and then we need to prescribe the treatment, whatever that might be, actually it's more complex, but by simplifying it in terms of managing our emotions and staying calm and having hope, actually for nearly all mental health issues people are experiencing, wherever they are on that continuum of experience, however severe it might be, it's something around those two areas that we need. And if we focus on how the brain works, that's around, first of all, managing our emotions, and then thinking about, what are my thoughts doing? How can I retain that sense of hope? So a model I use for regulating emotions, which helps us focus, is it's called BEAT IT, BEATIT, and each of those letters stands for a really rapid thing that you can do. So all these people, there's that 300% increase in people might want to hear this, maybe, is B represents breathe. No surprises there. But if we want to recalibrate the brain and the body, just taking 60 seconds, a deep diaphragmatic breath into the stomach, in and slowly out, it can really help calm things down, because a lot of us have just got stuck in chronic stress mode. So just taking that time to breathe, 60 seconds, really helps get that functioning, that neocortical activity in the brain working, and reducing that limbic fight-flight response. So we talk about 7-11 breathing, 7 in, 11 out. If that's too much, some people, if they're experiencing chronic stress, all the time, they'll be breathing very high up in the lung. So maybe starting with a gentle 3 in and a 5 out. Building to a 6 and then an 8 out, that can really help. Square breathing, find a square, a rectangle.
Just to bring some clarity around why we breathe out more than we breathe in, because when we inhale oxygen in, we tend to ramp our system up. It's adrenaline that fuels that movement, that brings that oxygen in. And when we exhale out, and we exhale out for longer, that's a much more relaxing way of breathing. We release chemicals such as DHEA into our system, which is rest and revive.
Absolutely. So it's the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems. So what we're doing with that slower out breath is we're triggering the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what's in our, the driving seat when we're in a restive state, when we're not feeling under any form of threat. So it has good as you say, good physical basis. It's not some woo, wow, man. It is a highly effective technique for reducing that stress response.
Brilliant. So we've got breathe. What's on E?
E is exercise, that's move. So just get up, stretch, run around, jump up and down, try and get out into nature. So this is in the moment stress. So, you've brought your awareness to the fact you're experiencing stress. Is the heart going? Does the stomach feel a bit odd? Whatever your sign might be. So just move away. We can only work optimally for 50-minute chunks. A lot of evidence showing that now. So just don't expect yourself to sit down at 9, work 3 till 5 and, wow, that was a great day. Actually, much better to have short, sharp chunks. We will achieve a lot more. So just get up, move. The A is for just accept. Okay, so I've recognised what's happening. I'm recognising what's going on. And I'm just going to allow that to happen, just accepting it, just noticing it. So that sort of goes back to that Joseph Campbell circle of awareness. Just accept it. Here's my old friend anxiety. Okay, interesting. Maybe I'll score it out of 10, give that a 7 today. When we name things, we know, as I say, that there's that less limbic activity. T is for, it's actually transcend your thoughts, but it's a technique called grounding. So to transcend what's happening, engage your senses. So what can you see? What can you hear? Smell, touch, taste right now. Sometimes I ask people to find 5 things they can see that have a different colour. Can you bring your attention to 4 sensations in the body? What do your feet feel like right now? Seat on the chair, air on the face, at the very top of your head. Can you hear 3 sounds?
Lovely.
Yeah? 2 smells. Taste. So you're really, it's a very acknowledged, treatment really for people who have anxiety, who need to, stay calm. And so this is transcend those emotions by engaging your senses. Then we have use of the imagination. So imagination is very powerful. So just really recalling a place where you feel super relaxed and engaging all those senses in that place. And there's many, many apps that help us do that, but we can do that ourselves. So, again, what does it look like? What can we hear there, smell, all those senses again. And then finally, the final T is tighten and then release. So this is progressive muscle relaxation. And this is when we take each part of the body in turn, we tighten it, we bring our awareness to what that feels like, that kind of burning sensation. We then release and bring our awareness to that. And you cannot fail to be more relaxed if you work through that sequence. So different people like different elements of that. I would encourage anyone to practice that breathe. I think that's one of the most effective. But try those techniques and see. I think that can help reduce that brain fog and really retain that sense of control. So we can then start to go, to focus on our thoughts. And how those might not be very helpful for us at the moment. But until we can regulate those emotions, it becomes really hard to do anything about our thoughts. So we need to get those in check first.
Absolutely. I think it's where it all starts. And just to recap on that, you've got your beat it activity, which is breathe out for longer than you breathe in. Exercise, get up and move.
Yeah.
Accept where you are and let it go if you can. Transcend, grounding, focus on the senses, what's around you, what can you hear, what can you feel, what can you touch, what can you taste, and connect with the body through that. Use your imagination and visualize. Visualize a place where you've been relaxed, enjoyed the surroundings, a relationship, something that you hold dear to you, something that you're passionate about. And then tighten and relax. And this is the point that we then repeat the process, because when we tighten and we relax, breathe out as you relax and magnify the exercise itself.
Fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. Said it a lot better than me, James. Thanks for that.
I don't think so, Michelle. I don't think so. I was going through the activities you were explaining and I felt a lot more relaxed.
Great.
Michelle, that's been absolutely fascinating talking to you about resilience, well-being and mental health, particularly the current environment. And I hope our listeners are taking away some practical exercises they can use in order to manage their own emotions, build their own routines, and connect with others in an external environment. Michelle, if people would like to get hold of you after this podcast, how may they reach you?
Email is probably the best way. So that's the Colourworks email address. So michelle@thecolourworks.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Michelle, you and I are going to be building some wonderful programs around team wellbeing and resilience, and currently delivering coping strategies out there as well. So keep an eye on our website and social channels, because there are a lot of free 60-minute sessions that are designed to support individuals out in the workplace in managing their own emotions through the colour model, and transitioning through change as we make our way through COVID-19. Thanks again, Michelle. It's been really brilliantly having you on the show.
My absolute pleasure, James. Thank you for inviting me.
We hope you found this episode insightful and interesting. If you want more information on today's topic, then head to thecolourworks.com and look for our Solutions tab on the main menu. If you want to be notified of new podcast releases and other useful people development resources, then please subscribe to our mailing list and follow us on social media at The Colourworks. We're active on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn, and we look forward to seeing you over there. Do you want to see the impact we can have on your organisation? Then get in touch through our website or email the team on inquiries@thecolourworks.com. Thanks for listening. See you next time.